The Black Dahlia, Elizabeth Short case, CASEVAULT. January 15th, 1947. A normal morning in Los Angeles was about to become one of the darkest days in American history. A woman walking through an empty area in Leimert Park noticed something strange lying in the grass. At first, she thought it was a broken mannequin. But as she moved closer, she realized the horrifying truth. It was the body of a young woman. A woman who would later become known as one of the most mysterious victims in American crime history. Her name was Elizabeth Short. She was only 22 years old, and the person responsible for her death would disappear into history. The newspapers would give her a name that the world would never forget, the Black Dahlia. But almost 80 years later, one question remains unanswered. Who killed Elizabeth Short? Elizabeth Short was born in Boston, Massachusetts in 1924. Her early life was filled with difficulties. When she was only 6 years old, her father disappeared. His car was found abandoned near a bridge, and many believed he had died. Elizabeth grew up without the stability of a normal childhood. Years later, her father was found alive, but their relationship was never the same. As Elizabeth became older, she dreamed of leaving her past behind. Like many young people searching for a new life, she looked toward Hollywood. She believed Los Angeles could give her the future she wanted. Elizabeth moved to California hoping to become an actress. She was young, attractive, and determined. But Hollywood was not the dream she imagined. Thousands of people arrived every year hoping to become famous. Only a few succeeded. Elizabeth struggled to find her place. She moved between different homes and relied on people she met along the way. Many people described her as friendly and polite, but many also admitted they never truly knew her. She was a young woman chasing a dream in a city full of secrets. In January 1947, Elizabeth was staying in Los Angeles. On January 9th, she was seen at the Biltmore Hotel. Witnesses remembered that she appeared to be waiting for someone, but the person she expected never arrived. After that moment, Elizabeth Short disappeared. For several days, nobody knew where she was. Her friends had no answers. Her family had no answers. Then on January 15th, everything changed. A woman named Betty Bersinger was walking through an empty lot with her young daughter. She noticed something unusual in the grass, a pale figure lying motionless. At first, she believed it was a mannequin. But when she looked closer, she realized she was looking at a human body. Police arrived quickly. The victim was identified as Elizabeth Short. The discovery immediately shocked Los Angeles. Experienced investigators had seen many terrible crime scenes. But this case was different. The condition of the body raised more questions than answers. Investigators believed Elizabeth had not been killed at the location where she was found. The absence of blood suggested the crime may have happened somewhere else. The killer had moved her afterward. Police searched the area for clues. They found tire marks. They discovered a footprint. They collected every possible piece of evidence. But the most important clue was missing: the identity of the killer. The media quickly turned the murder into a national obsession. Newspapers published stories every day. People wanted to know who Elizabeth Short was. They wanted to know who could commit such a crime. And they wanted to know why. The nickname appeared everywhere. The Black Dahlia. Soon, Elizabeth Short became more than a victim. She became a symbol of Hollywood's darker side. The Los Angeles Police Department launched a massive investigation. Detectives interviewed hundreds of people, friends, former relationships, strangers. Anyone connected to Elizabeth became a possible lead, but the case became more complicated every day. Many people falsely claimed they were the killer. Some wanted attention. Some wanted their names in the newspapers. The investigation became surrounded by rumors. Over the years, many suspects were considered. One of the most discussed names was Dr. George Hoddle. He was a Los Angeles doctor whose background created suspicion. Some researchers believed he may have been connected to the crime, but no evidence was ever strong enough to prove he was responsible. Other suspects appeared over the decades. Some were people who knew Elizabeth. Others were complete strangers. But every theory faced the same problem. No confession. No proven evidence. No arrest. No conviction. The biggest mystery remains. Was Elizabeth killed by someone she trusted? Was it a stranger who crossed her path? Or was the truth hidden by someone who knew exactly how to disappear? Today, the Black Dahlia case remains one of America's most famous unsolved murders. Nearly 8 decades have passed. The city has changed. The people connected to the case are gone. But the mystery remains alive. A young woman came to Hollywood searching for a dream. Instead, she became part of the darkest story in the city's history. The killer vanished. The answers disappeared, but one question remains forever. Who killed Elizabeth Short? This was the Black Dahlia case. For decades, investigators continued to return to the same question. Who had the motive? Who had the opportunity? And who had the ability to commit such a carefully planned crime? The police received thousands of tips. Some were useful. Many were not. The attention surrounding the case created chaos. People across the country followed every new development. Every rumor became a headline. Every suspicious person became a possible suspect. But the more people searched for answers, the more complicated the mystery became. One of the most unusual parts of the investigation was the number of false confessions. More than 50 people reportedly claimed responsibility for Elizabeth Short's murder. Some contacted newspapers. Some contacted police. But when investigators checked their stories, they quickly fell apart. Many were simply looking for attention. Others wanted to become part of the most famous crime story in America. The real killer, however, remained silent. And that silence became one of the most disturbing parts of the case. As investigators continued searching, they examined Elizabeth's personal life. They looked at the people she knew, the men she dated, the places she visited, the people who saw her during her final days. Detectives discovered that Elizabeth had met many people during her time in California, but her lifestyle made the investigation difficult. She moved frequently. She stayed in different places. She had many acquaintances, and there was no clear timeline of her final hours. The last confirmed sighting of Elizabeth became one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle. She was seen at the Biltmore Hotel. She appeared to be waiting for someone. But who was that person? Was it someone she knew? Someone she trusted? Or someone who had planned the meeting? No one ever found the answer. Over the years, several theories emerged. Some believed the killer was someone close to Elizabeth, someone who understood her movements, someone who knew where she would be. Others believed the crime was committed by a stranger, a person who chose Elizabeth randomly. Another theory suggested the killer may have had medical knowledge because of the way the body was handled. This led investigators to examine people connected to the medical field. But again, no theory could be proven. One of the most talked about suspects was Dr. George Hodel. Hodel was a wealthy Los Angeles physician. Years later, some writers and investigators suggested that his behavior and background deserved attention. His own family members later raised questions about him, but despite decades of discussion, he was never officially charged. The case remained open. The Black Dahlia investigation became something different over time. It was no longer only a murder case. It became an American mystery. Books were written. Documentaries were produced. People searched through old files, hoping to discover something everyone else missed. Every generation brought new theories, new suspects, new possibilities, but the truth stayed hidden. The strange thing about the Black Dahlia case is not only that the killer was never found, it is also that Elizabeth Short herself became almost as mysterious as the person who killed her. People remembered her differently. Some saw her as a young woman chasing a dream. Others saw her as someone searching for a place where she belonged. But behind all the headlines was a real person, a 22-year-old woman who wanted a future, a woman who wanted to become somebody. Instead, her name became connected forever to one of the darkest, unsolved crimes in history. Today, Los Angeles is completely different from the city Elizabeth Short knew. The streets have changed. The buildings have changed. The people who knew the truth are long gone. But the question remains, somewhere in the past. Someone knew what happened to Elizabeth Short. Someone knew why she was targeted. Someone knew who the killer was. And that person took the answer to the grave. The Black Dahlia case remains a reminder that some mysteries refuse to disappear. Because even after decades, even after countless investigations, even after all the theories, one question still remains. Who killed Elizabeth Short?